Aaron Rodgers and the Packers hosting the Panthers. First quarter, Aaron Rodgers is going to find his guy Robert Tonyan in the end zone.
No surprise there, Sam. That's his 40 TDs passing this year for Aaron Rodgers. MVP?
Santa loves it.
We'll
Santa
see.
knows. Got to trust him. And then early in the second quarter, Rodgers looking for an open receiver. Doesn't see one and figures I'll just take it myself.
Yeah, why not? All the talk about these young quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers still has great mobility. Get in the end zone.
Still got the belt. Later in the second quarter, Panthers with the first and goal. Teddy tries to sneak it, and it doesn't work. Kevin King with the recovery.
For the love of God, can we get rid of this play? This play is a disaster. Every week we see it. Man, come on. Carolina, it ended up costing you the game.
It's great when it works. Not so great when it doesn't. Later in the second quarter, Rodgers hands it off to Aaron Jones, who basically just skips into the end zone.
Yeah, what a day, Aaron. Aaron Rodgers had a tough day. Aaron Jones was lights out yesterday.
Later in the third, Teddy Bridgewater trying to redeem himself here, and he does. Runs it into the end zone for a 13-yard score.
And every time I see him run, it's just great for the league, great for Teddy. We all know about the injury, but an outstanding run there by Teddy Bridgewater.
No doubt about that. And right here, he finds this guy, DJ Moore. Breaks a couple of nice tackles there and gets upfield for a nice game.
Yeah, you better wrap this young man up, man. There's no quitting him. What a great reception by him. And Joey Sly was pretty sly on this one. I thought it was interesting they never went for the end zone first, but they knows the team better than I do.
I guess. And then Rodgers takes the snap, but he's brought down by Brian Burns. Big sack there.
Sam, 5 sacks in the game for this Carolina defense.
18 seconds left, and Bridgewater takes the snap but throws the ball out of bounds. The Packers hang on to win this one 24-16. Here were Aaron Rodgers' thoughts on the win after the game.
It was definitely a stinker for the offense. The third and fourth quarters. But, it is frustrating, but we're 11-3. We won the game. That's a good problem to have. We just know that type of football in the second half, not going to get it done in the playoffs. That's where we're going. That's the trajectory that we're on.
So the tone is very calm, very relaxed, old Aaron Rodgers. He seems to be saying this, though, because he's been in this spot before. He's seen what it's like to have a great season and then kind of fall off early in the playoffs. Do you think the concern is warranted, Teddy?
I don't think so. I mean, I think they got cute a little bit in the second half, maybe got away from running the football. I think a positive to look at. I know you didn't like the play call on the Teddy Bridgewater jumping over there, but linebacker Chris Barnes, rookie out of UCLA, made a great play, and that's what they need to do. The young linebackers had to get better. Kirksky's in there, a veteran presence. The red zone defense was good. So the positives were there for them to make a run in the playoffs.
Yeah, red zone defense causing turnovers, 2 fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries inside the 5. That's fixable, but I think we're discounting and discrediting the job that Carolina did.
Yeah.
I mean, this Carolina team, Matt Rule and company, this is an up-and-coming team, and I know it's easy to look at their record and say, oh, we should blow these guys out. This is not college football. You got to bring it every single Sunday. You got to bring it every single Saturday night, whatever it is. These days, there's games on Monday, Thursday. There's games all days of the week. You got to bring it every single time. In Carolina, I think we're discrediting them by saying, like, oh, Green Bay, this was a bad win. This was a good win. Aaron Rodgers didn't have statistically a great day, but there's no shame in getting this win. I think the Green Bay Packers are going to be tough down the stretch. And all these teams in the playoffs, these teams from Arizona and California and Florida and dome teams, they got to go to Green Bay, Wisconsin to play games very likely. That is a huge advantage. In a year where there's no home field advantage, really.
Even with no fans.
The Green Bay Packers have that weather advantage against warm weather and dome teams. As Aaron Rodgers might say, everyone can just relax a little bit. They're going to be fine.
Yeah, the number 1 seed, I think, more than any other year, I think it is critical this year. And I mean, they're going to have it. There's no question. They got to finish out the season. They're going to have the number 1 seed in the NFC. And you're right, Brew, when you're talking about their defense, man, I'm seeing this defense get better and better and better. Yeah. And when that happens, when that defense is anywhere close to their offense, watch out, because a balanced football team off a bye in the playoffs is going to be tough.
You know, the history of Green Bay running to the Super Bowl to go through Lambeau Field, the history shows you got to go up there with a tough mentality and ignore the cold weather. That's how you get to the Green Bay Packers. But something I've been talking about the Green Bay Packers all season is them having another wide receiver to go with Devontae Adams. Yesterday, 42 yards by Devontae Adams, 56 yards by Lazard. We're talking about the playoffs, talking about this offense for the Green Bay Packers. I think this could be a concern for the Green Bay Packers headed forward, because if you're paying a lot of attention to Devontae Adams, slowing that run game down by Aaron Jones, you're going to need another pass catcher to step up. I didn't see that yesterday. Maybe that could affect them long term down the road.
Yeah, that's something to keep an eye on. Rex, I know you're saying they're going to get the #1 seed, but you look at their schedule, it is a little interesting these last 2 games. They've got the Titans at home. That's a tough weather game for a Nashville team. But then at the Bears, and before you laugh, Mitchell Trubisky's playing some good ball right now. If they get a win against Minnesota today, maybe that game, I knew it was coming. Maybe that game gets more interesting as they try and hold on to that bye. Now let's go down to a warm weather place in Texas. They're inside in Grapevine getting ready to make a big decision today as we count you down to the college football playoff selection show. This is a big one. A lot of questions about who's in and who's out. Now, Trevor Lawrence of Clemson, coming off that win over Notre Dame, pretty confident that he's going to be in. But when it comes to the NFL, still some questions. Here's Trevor on Adam Schefter's podcast on Tuesday.
I try not to think about it too much, honestly. Right now, in the present, kind of who the team would be is pretty obvious. It's the Jets. I'm not going to be naive, and I hear it all the time. Obviously, I haven't been to New York. I've heard a lot of good things. It's definitely different from what I'm used to. So wouldn't that'd be kind of cool if that was my first time going to show up with bags. And I'm not going to let someone force me into answering this question a certain way. So that was my thing. Everyone really is listening to what I say in these interviews. Sometimes you forget that.
A first time in New York, showing up to be the quarterback of the New York Jets. That should be pretty interesting. It's time for the Domino's pregame headquarters. Let's bring Morton Adam back in. Adam, after talking to Trevor, what more do you know?
Well, how amazing is that he's never been to New York? And a lot of people still wondering if Trevor Lawrence would even consider going back to school. I didn't get that sense at all, Sam. It sounds like he's headed out. It sounds like he's preparing to be drafted. He will be the #1 overall pick if and when he comes out. And when he does appear on my podcast this week, which will release tomorrow, I didn't sense any resistance about going to the New York Jets with the #1 pick. Check out all of Trevor Lawrence's comments on the Adam Schefter podcast, which will be released on Monday. As for the Northwestern head coach, Pat Fitzgerald, after his team lost to Ohio State yesterday, there were inquiries made about whether Pat Fitzgerald would be willing to interview for an NFL head coaching job from at least 2 teams yesterday. Last year, you'll remember the Carolina Panthers wanted to talk to Fitzgerald about their head coaching job. The year before, he turned down the chance to talk to the Green Bay Packers. Take this to the bank. Pat Fitzgerald is going to get multiple requests for NFL head coaching interviews, and it sounds like he might be willing to listen. And as for the big game today, the Kansas City Chiefs and New Orleans Saints, let's keep in mind that back in the 2017 NFL Draft, the 2 players the Saints wanted to take were Patrick Mahomes or Marshawn Lattimore. Mahomes was on the board until the Chiefs traded up to get him, 1 slot in front of the Saints, leaving Marshawn Lattimore to New Orleans. Today, Marshawn Lattimore goes up against the other player that the Saints had high on their board, Mort.
Yeah, that's right. And I know a source close to the Saints and Peyton who believes they would have pulled the trigger on Patrick Mahomes, even though Lattimore had a slightly higher grade. And Lattimore has paid off. He was the Defensive Rookie of the Year in 2017. And today he has an interesting matchup, I'd say, against the Chiefs' 5th-round pick of 2016. That guy, Tyreek Hill. So Lattimore, multiple Pro Bowl corner, a great pick by the Saints in 11 when they didn't get Patrick Mahomes, goes up against Cheetah, Tyreek Hill, warming up for you, Shefty, for a race down the road for charity.
He can't handle me, Morty. He can't handle me, man. I'm just telling you.
I can't wait to see it. That's